Today I'm going to show you how to combine some of the data sets we grabbed from NASA Giovanni in the last video, which explained how to grab that precipitation data from NASA Giovanni. I'm going to show you how to combine these into one nice spreadsheet and how to make a heat map with the accumulation data. And this is what I do to prepare the data sets for my 6th graders to use. If you have older students, you might walk them through how to do this themselves too. But let's start with, I'm going to make a new Google Sheets, and this is the one that's going to hold all of the data. So I'm going to put each of these in a different sheet at the bottom here. I think that's helpful again for my 6th graders. It helps them just have everything in one file, makes things a little bit less confusing. So I'm going to name this file. This is a storm from September 2016, and I didn't show you grabbing it from Giovanni, but it is in the Northern Virginia area where I am. So I got a relevant storm for my kids around here, so I'm going to name it September 2016, precipitation data. Maybe I'll say IMERG data, just something that I know what it is. And then I know that this is Stafford, Virginia, so if I'm going to have a bunch of storms in one folder, I might also put the location just to make sure I remember where it was from. Okay, so I got my title now. And then now I'm going to open, I'm going to grab the time series data. So this again came straight from NASA Giovanni. It's downloaded as a CSV file, so it's got all this extra stuff. But I'm just going to do Control A to select everything and then copy it. Then I'm going to put that in Sheet 1, and then I'm going to rename Sheet 1 to be time series, because I know it's all precipitation data. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and prep this a little bit. So maybe if you want to make it a little bit easier for your students, you might go ahead and start fixing it up a little bit. I'm going to delete these first 8 rows. You might leave them if you want your kids to practice like grabbing and deleting rows. And then I'm going to show you how I have my kids prepare and format this later once we get everything. So I just deleted the top part and I just have this raw data of the time series. Next I'm going to add another sheet. I'm going to rename this one accumulation, because it's where I'm going to put the precipitation accumulation data. And I'm done with this one. That data is in this one. And I'm just going to, again, Control A and then Control C to copy, and then I'm going to paste this here. And I got that stuff. And again, you can leave this metadata, which is just more info about where the data came from, or like what region it came from and the dates and things, if you want to have your kids practice deleting those. I'm going to go ahead and delete those for myself right now though. Okay, so now we have the time series data in one sheet and the accumulation data in another. And this is probably what I would give my students just to do like simple edits, like plotting the time series and doing the some formatting, like changing this to just be precipitation and giving some color to those. Same thing over here. The other thing that we can add that can be helpful for kids is a heat map of this accumulation data. So the time series data I think makes a lot of sense for kids because it's just the precipitation in millimeters per hour over time, and when you plot it you get a nice line graph. The accumulation data, it again is latitude and longitude and then precipitation in millimeters. And so each of these rows represents a different 0.1 by 0.1 degree grid box, and it's kind of rounded out here, but it represents each one of the grid boxes inside the IMERG data, and then this is the precipitation within that smaller 0.1 degree by 0.1 degree grid box. So that's kind of hard for kids to understand sometimes. You can plot this data in IMERG and see the plot on a map, and that can be helpful, but I like to add an extra an extra pivot table and a map and a new sheet. And I just go ahead and set that up for them. If you have older kids, you might walk them through how to create that themselves. But I'm just going to go ahead and make it for this one. And so I'm going to select all the data, and I'm going to click Insert, and I want a pivot table. I'm going to put it in a new sheet, and then it's over here. So I'm going to set the rows to be latitude, and then in order to make it, so this is going to show us north to south, but because it's ascending and we're in the northern hemisphere, it's going to show south to north. So this is south and this is north right now. So I'm going to switch it to descending so that it shows me north to south. So I have that like never eat soggy waffles northeast southwest. That makes a little bit more sense for the maps I'm used to reading. So I switched the latitude to descending, and then for columns that's going to be longitude, and that already works. It's already east to west or west to east. And then in the ascending order, so I'm going to leave that as is. And then my values are going to be the precipitation in millimeters. So now I have this pivot table, and I'm just going to go ahead and make these column widths be a little bit easier to see everything. And the next thing we're going to do is the heat map. So again, each of these boxes is going to represent like a different grid box in the bigger region box that we chose from IMERG. So it's different locations. And again, this is going north to south and west to east. And so we can add a little like compass to help us see that a little bit better. Just gonna just put that to the side. And I like to put this for my kids, so it helps them like localize what they're looking at. So I'm gonna change the alignments to be a little bit more map or compass-like. And then I'm just gonna change the background color just to show that's the compass area, and then change those column widths to be a little bit easier. So when I'm looking at this this pivot table, this compass is just showing me that, again, it is north to south and west to east, which is just what you're used to looking at a map. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my data. So I'm not grabbing the totals, but I'm just going to grab the actual raw data points. And what I want to do is I want to add the heat map so I can see where the rain or the precipitation was worse in different areas. So I just selected that, and I'm going to click Format. I'm going to click Conditional Formatting, and I'm going to click Color Scale. And so it gives me a couple options for different color scales I can use. And then it sets the percentile to be 50%. You can change this to be a different percentile if you want to change the way that it looks. We can also do a custom color scale, and we can change, so the midpoint is now yellow and the max is now red. And so we can see, and I'm going to change this back to 50, maybe it makes it a little bit easier to see. So in this color scale that I chose, the lighter area is the green. This is going to be the min. The yellow is kind of the midpoint, the 50th percentile. And then the red is going to be the max, like the worst areas of the storm. So just looking at this heat map and then our compass, we can kind of see that for this specific storm, and the specific time period that we chose to grab this data from, which I talked about in the last video, the caveats with that. But for this specific set of data, it looks like this storm was worse on the south side, so on this bottom side, and on the east side, because our red values are kind of concentrated in the southeast over here. So if you were to pull the or plot this data on the map in NASA Giovanni, which is where we got the data from, you would be able to see on the map of Virginia that it was had higher precipitation in the southeast. So this is about how, and then I can rename this to maybe be accumulation, or I'm just going to rename it heat map. Name it accumulation heat map too. So this is the spreadsheet that I would give my say 6th graders to edit and do their own analysis on. they're not going to be editing this heat map at all. I just like to leave it for them there because I think it helps them understand this accumulation data a little bit better. And then they can kind of see, like they can click edit and see what the pivot table is. If you have older students that are learning how to do pivot tables, then this is something they could make themselves, or you could walk them through doing that. So I would give this file to my 6th graders, and I would have them make a copy of it. So I'm going to write student example here, just so I'm going to leave this clean copy in the folder so you can see it, what it would look like. And then I'm going to make my student copies what I would have the students do. So my student examples here, I still have all the same data. I have my heat map. Again, I'm not going to edit this heat map because I'm working as a student now. What I do want my students to do is I want them to clean up the data, so they got to adjust the column widths. And they're going to rename this variable. It's like a really long name. I'm going to rename it Precipitation. And this is a time series, so it's in millimeters per hour. Adjust that column width. To give the headers like a nice way to stand out. We can plot the time and precipitation data in a time series. So I can select that data and then click Insert Chart. And I get my nice line graph of the precipitation over time. I can also do some, and I can double click and change this title to be something that makes more sense. Precipitation time series, and then September 2016 Stafford storm. And then I can do some statistics too. So I normally have them do at least 3 statistics across all of this data. So we'll do 2 down here. We're going to get the average rain rate. This is rain rate in millimeters per hour over time. And then I'll get the max rain rate too. That'll tell me the peak of this storm. And then I'll do the statistics over here. It's already recognizing that I want the average, and it's probably going to recognize that I want the max. No, it didn't, so I'm going to have to type max. I click it, and then I'm going to select the data that I want. You can also type that in. And so my max was 6 millimeters per hour, and I'm just going to highlight this so I can see it better. My max was 6, so I can go find that somewhere in here. Oh, right here. So on September 29th, 2016, 9:30, and then again, this is, like I mentioned in the last video, this is in UTC time. It's not in local time, so just keep that in mind. But it's at 9:30 UTC on the 29th was the peak of the storm. I can highlight that so I can see it too. And then the average rain rate across all of them was 2.44. We can have the students decrease the decimal places, round it so it's easier to see too. I like to have them practice doing that. And so this is looking pretty good. We're going to go to the accumulation one now. And just like in the last video, we're going to do the same plotting the precipitation against latitude and longitude to see if it was heavier on the east or the west, and then on the north or the south. So we're gonna, we can change just the colors, and I let my kids do whatever colors they like for this. I'm gonna rename this one to be Precipitation, and this is again in millimeters because it's accumulation. The other one's in millimeters per hour. And then I have this data. I'm gonna plot longitude versus precipitation. I'm gonna click Insert Chart again, and that's gonna give me so I need to aggregate this to combine those lines because I have like doubles of the same thing because of the rounding situation. So I'm just gonna plot that. So this is precipitation versus longitude in this specific storm. So again, this negative 78, if we round it, that is going to be the west side. And the negative 77, this is going to be the east side. So this is showing that, this plot at least is showing that it was worse on the east side. And we can go to the heat map to just verify that. And we can see that there are more red blocks, there is higher precipitation on the east side according to this one too. So we can fact check that. And now we're going to do the same thing for latitude. So again, I'm expecting it to be worse on the south side if I do this correctly. So I'm going to grab latitude, and then I'm going to hold the control button down and select precipitation. And I'm going to click insert chart, and then again I'm going to aggregate it. So this is our precipitation versus latitude. I'm just going to drag this down so I can see it better. So it is showing the same thing. So our 38 or a lower 38 or 38.1 number, this is going to be the south side, and our 38.6, that's going to be the north side of the specific area we chose, again in Northern Virginia. And this is showing that it was worse on the south side. This line is higher on the south side of the map. And we can go back to the heat map and see again it is matching with what is over here. And then for my students, again, I tell them they need 3 charts. So I've got one chart that's the time series. I've got one chart here for longitude, one chart for latitude. This does not count as a chart towards their grade because they didn't make it. But they are, I sometimes do presentations, like where they can do a presentation on their data in Google Slides, and they can use this in their Google Slides, but it doesn't count towards their making their own plots, part of the rubric. So and then I tell them they need 3 statistics. So gotta have 3 charts and 3 statistics. We got 2 right here with average rain rate and max rain rate. Now I'm gonna do total accumulation. I'm gonna make the column width fit, change the formatting to be a little bit nicer, and then we're gonna get the sum, and it's gonna recommend that to me, so I'm just gonna click that, and then I'm gonna round it down to just the 2 decimal places. So for this storm, the total accumulation was 1,600 millimeters across that area that we specifically chose when we grabbed the data from IMERG. So they have the 2 statistics here, 1 statistic here, so that's 3 statistics, and then 3 charts, the time series, the longitude, and the latitude. So I got 3 charts and 3 statistics, and so this would be an A for one of my 6th graders doing this. And I let them choose, I give them a couple options for different storms. So again, with my younger kids, I don't have them go to Giovanni and pull the data themselves. I might have them just like check it out to see where the data came from, but the downloading of the data and putting it into a Google Sheet is sometimes too difficult. If you have more advanced students or again older students, maybe you have them do that yourself. But I will just go ahead and prepare a couple of these spreadsheets to look like this for a couple different relevant storms for like our local area. So this one, September 2016, the school was like they had bad storms and power outages, so they were out of school for a couple days. So the kids are interested for that, and I might pull some news stories that are describing that to help keep it local. But I'll prepare a couple of these spreadsheets and then let them choose from like 4 different storm options that I already made these spreadsheets for. So that's what I do with my younger kids, and then this is also again showing an example of how you can make that heat map of the accumulation data.